I struggle to manage icons in Microsoft Power BI, but recently there was a new feature called DAX User Defined Functions, and now I can create functions like this one that I've named icons pack. All I have to do is change the icon name in the function and the icon will update. Or if I want to come up with a new color, I can simply paste in a new hex code and the color of the icon changes. DAX user defined functions are new as of the September 2025 version. They're just now entering preview. But people have been waiting for them for a long time, and that's because they're a big deal. They allow you to define a logic and then reuse that logic over and over and over again. Simply put, a function is just a named block of code that can take inputs but returns a result. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through this function that I created right here. And that's because I think this kind of icon pack idea could be useful to everyone, especially teams that are looking to use a consistent design language across all of their reports. And this is the perfect use case for functions. Icons are something that I was recreating in every single report. And now, instead of having to continue to do that recreation, I can just simply deploy this function. And this is something that, as someone who's not really a DAX superstar, I can contribute while I wait for people that are much better than me to create a lot cooler stuff. All right. So, with that out of the way, we're going to jump in and I'm going to show you how this function works and how I found icons to store in the function. But first, we're almost at 4,000 subscribers. So if you like business intelligence content, uh, please consider subscribing and liking this video. It means a lot. All right, let's jump into the computer and let's take a look at the function. Okay, so first things first, in order to create a function, you either have to use DAX Query View or TMDL, and you can define a function with this create or replace syntax in TMDL, or just simply define and then function and then the name in DAX Query View. Once you've created a function, if you go over into Model View, you'll see the function under the functions dropdown under the semantic model over here. Now, this is a function called icons pack. And this function takes two string variables. So the first one is icon name, and then the next one is hex. Okay. Within this, what we've gone ahead and done is we have defined what we're calling an SVG table. Now, this table has two columns, both the name of the icon, which can be anything that you want, right? So instead of settings, this could be Ned, and then the SVG image URL string. Now, an SVG URL string in Microsoft Power BI, in order for it to recognize it as an image, always needs to start with data, this prefix right here. I'm not going to bother to read it out loud to you. The other thing that we also did with these SVGs is we removed the fill, which this is typically a hex color code with color in brackets, and that'll become relevant later on. Because the next thing that we do is we filter down this data table that has all of our SVGs with the icon name that's passed to our function. So right here, so that way we have a filtered table, and then we take a max of that filtered table. So that way we only have one SVG image URL string. Now, the next thing that we do here is we have a var final string where we replace the color with the hex color code that was being replaced. So that's what we're doing here with the substitute function. Finally, then we just return the SVG string, which then means that once I have this function actually put here in my DAX query view, I can simply go update model with changes, and it goes ahead and it creates or updates the function in my model. Now, how did I find scalable SVG icons to put in my data table, you might be asking? Well, let me show you where you can go ahead and you can get them. So I like to go over here to fonts.google.com/icons. And this brings me to all of the Google Material UI icons. And then I like to set them to filled. And just like that, I have every single icon. So I've already downloaded a few of my most used icons for my icon pack, but let's say that I've found another one that I want to add, which is this icon right here called Mood Bad. What I can do is I can select this icon, then go over here and download it as an SVG. I can then go over here into my downloads folder, which is where this just downloaded. I can right click it and then I can edit it in Notepad++. Now, icons downloaded from Google will always use double quotes, and this can get a little tricky with Microsoft Power BI. So I always like to update these double quotes to single quotes. So I'll go ahead and do that by going replace all right here. And then I'll go over here to the fill and I'll go right here and I'll put in my color right here. So right here's our color. And then jumping back over into Microsoft Power BI, we need to grab that prefix that allows Power BI to recognize SVGs as image URLs, which is right over here. And you can zoom in on this video, but it's essentially data image backslash SVG plus XML colon UTF81 comma. So, just something easy to remember. You can then go Control A, copy out this SVG image definition, go into Microsoft Power BI, and then we're going to add a new image to our icon pack by going Alt Enter, putting in the image right here. So I'll put this in double quotes and then giving it a name. So I will call this icon Frowny, Frowny, and I'll go a comma and I will title it Frowny, and I'll copy the name right here and then go update my model. So now that I have Frowny in my model, I should now be able to go to the measure where I was referencing my function and put in Frowny right over here. So let's go ahead and see if that works. I said Frowny. And just like that, oh no, we now have our frowny face. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the code that I was showing throughout this video on my GitHub, linked down below in the video description. I would encourage you to go out and create an icon pack of your own, favorite icons that you use all the time. If you create a really cool one, upload it to your own GitHub and link it down below in the video description for others to find and use. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing because we're on our way to 4,000. We're almost there. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.